Welcome on behalf of the University of Washington's School of Marine and Environmental Affairs, also known as SMEA. My name is Nives Dolsak, and I'm the school's director and the Stan and Alta Bader Professor in Sustainability Sciences. I'll be the facilitator of today's panel discussion, and we're excited to share about new volunteer opportunities at SMEA. Today's Zoom is being recorded, and we may choose to share some clips on SMEA's social media channels. Let me start by inviting you to please type into the Zoom chat where you're joining us from today. So where are you located now that you're sitting in front of your screen? And if you're a SMEA graduate, what year did you graduate? We're welcoming you to use the chat throughout this hour together. So again, where are you joining us from today? And then if you are a SMEA graduate, what year did you graduate from SMEA? Or maybe you graduated from a school with a different name. It's still the same school, School of Marine Affairs, Institute for Marine Studies. We have changed, evolved a lot over time, but we have the same focus. So if you could put that in the chat, please. Ben Johns, who is our very capable and dedicated and visionary advancement liaison for School of Marine and Environmental Affairs. Ben Johns will be moderating the chat, and our colleagues Monica Cataldo and Joaquin Chapar are supporting us with the tech issues. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Monica. And thank you, Joaquin, for supporting this event today. In a moment, I will introduce our three esteemed panelists who, through their careers and extensive volunteerism, have been of remarkable service to marine environments and coastal communities. We have planned a lively exchange of ideas, starting with panel discussion and leaving time for questions and insights from you, all of you joining us today in the second half of the hour. Before introducing our panel, I want to acknowledge that we are in uncertain times. Many of us are asking ourselves, what can I do? In response to emergent challenges in sustainable fisheries, environmental science, and policymaking, all with real-world implications for climate resilience and our shared future. At SMEA and across the College of the Environment, we have forged strong partnerships with federal agencies like the NOAA, NSF, the Department of the Interior, Department of Energy, USGS, US Coast Guard, and many others. I hope I'm not forgetting, and if I did forget, apologies. So I'm asking you to please raise your hand, either physically, well, actually not physically because your cameras may be off. Would you please raise your Zoom emoji hand if you've ever been a member of any of those organizations? Thank you all for your service to marine and environmental affairs. As you know, federal funding cuts are already impacting higher education, not to mention people losing their jobs, particularly at institutions like NOAA, doing such crucial work. Keeping this in mind, we are here to honor and celebrate our panelists and people like you who care deeply about marine and environmental affairs. SMEA's mission and values have not changed. In fact, it's more important than ever to train the next generation of policymakers. We hope you leave today feeling energized about volunteering and partnering with our school in new ways. Many, if not all of you, have dedicated your lives and countless hours to sustaining and strengthening marine ecosystems and our coastline communities. For those of you who already volunteer your time, thank you. Also, we could not do this work without your philanthropic support. And if the time isn't right for you to volunteer, please consider making a gift or do both. At the end of today's program, we will offer specific ways for you to take action. Before we jump in, just a quick reminder, please save your questions for the Q&A portion of the event that is moderated by Ben Johns, which will kick off around 2:30. Once I give the go-ahead, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We may not get to all of them, but our moderators will do their best to cover as many as possible, and we can always follow up via email on issues that are dear to you and to the school. So without further ado, it's my great honor to introduce our three panelists. Today we are joined by Dr. Usha Varanasi, marine scientist, ecotoxicologist, affiliate professor, and former research director of the Northwest Fisheries Science Center. She is a 1968 UW alumna, holding a Doctor of Philosophy in Chemistry. Usha delivers annual guest lectures at College of the Environment School of Environment and Forestry Sciences. And importantly, for me as the director and for everyone in SMEA community, she is also the member of the SMEA Directors Council. Our second panelist is Barbara Bennett, marine conservationist in education outreach, policy, and community science. Barbara holds a 2010 Masters of Marine Affairs at University of Washington, and she had a post-retirement encore career volunteering extensively on Whidbey Island. Barbara was recently honored with the 2025 Jan Holmes Island County Coastal Volunteer of the Year. Last but not least, our third panelist, Alan Shimada, is a fishery biologist, active in science education and nonprofit boards like AIFRB. He's a retired NOAA employee with 47 years of service, the bulk of which was in Washington, D.C. Alan is a second-generation UW Fisheries alumnus, holding a 1985 Masters of Marine Affairs and 1978 Bachelor of Science in Fisheries, and a member also of the SMEA Directors Council. Thank you. Thank you to all panelists joining us today. And my first question is for Usha. Usha, if I may, SMEA has an alumni mentorship program, which is a great way to volunteer with the school. You're a shining example of what it means to be a mentor, with a capital M. You've gone above and beyond to educate and inspire UW students by meeting them individually and delivering guest lectures. What fulfills you about volunteering? And when you speak to SMEA students, what is your message to them?
Well, thank you, Nives, for the question. Can you hear me properly? Okay, good. So this is the two-part question about what motivates me to volunteer, and then a message. So let me just spend a minute or so on my background to give some ideas to why I became so interested in volunteering, especially with students. So where I come from, the culture of volunteering was mostly faith-based or for people that were in need, which is was what I grew up as. And then just barely coming out of teens, I came to this country, and I was alone and quite scared actually. After realizing what I had done is to come to a country that was so different. And I was so thankful and actually enchanted that there were organizations at Caltech in Pasadena, small university, that provided host families, that provided guidance, that Rotary Club took us to all different places. And suddenly I realized that people volunteer not just for their faith or to take care of people who can't, but that this whole set of volunteers were learning from us about our culture, our country, and teaching us about United States. So it was a two-way process of being volunteering and learning from it. I like that idea of volunteering, not just to feel like I'm taking care of somebody, but actually learning from them. And I found that as a student, I had these wonderful people who helped me. And then when I came to University of Washington, a large university, very different from where I was before. And I found that not only the foreign students, the people coming from different countries, but all the students actually at times felt very lonely, bewildered, uh, could use some guidance or just a friendly smile. And so I started to learn from first being a graduate teacher, teaching assistant, and talking to undergraduate. And I almost found like I found my sound, or I found my vocation, or I found my passion, because I have never given up after that time. And that is why I volunteer, because I get so much back from the young minds that ask me questions that I had never thought about, and tell them my story and help them whenever I can. Um, so I think that kind of answers the first question, unless later on anybody has more questions. I am, as you can see me, I'm different in terms of when I first came, I was the only woman student from India in my college, and then here in the University of Washington also at those days, there were no graduate student doing PhD in chemistry, women student, until 2 years after I was there. So the way people behave, even though they're being nice, sometimes you have to kind of, this is for the students. You have to sort of make them realize what you need very politely, but they need to know, because sometimes people assume you need something which may not be what you need. So being able to articulate what your need is, or what you like from your mentors, is a good thing. That requires a little bit of strength, because quite often mentors are so overpowering and people just don't say anything to them. So in my case, there was my professor was just absolutely wonderful, and he um, took care of me, as because I'm like only girl in the young woman in the class. So sometimes when they went for meetings and all, he did not invite me, thinking I would be uncomfortable going with all the people. And I had to find my voice to tell him that should be my decision. That should not be, just because somebody cares for me, they should not decide that I can't do something or I may not. And he was actually very happy. But I had done it in a way that I didn't offend him. So those are the things the students can learn to, I don't want to give a group, lots of advice that they have heard already from books on leadership and all. So that's why I'm just kind of giving some ideas as to learn to know who you are, and don't always, another one, don't always take offense just because somebody says something. Learn to know which battles to pick, because there is going to be so many, and especially in this time, as Nives has just told us, how uncertain the times are. We will be buffeted quite a lot, and the students the most. Don't take everything seriously. Find strength, find passion. Right now, conserve energy to finish what you are doing, your studies, and have faith that the elders are going to try to bring us out of this period of turbulence. But during this period, I would say find two groups, one that think like you and give you comfort, and another that challenge you. I think that is where I will stop. I have lots of other things I could say, but I want to make sure my 5 minutes aren't becoming 10. So
Thank you, Usha ji, so much. You have done this for so many years. You have been a crucial mentor to so many people, and thank you for pointing out that oftentimes when we get into graduate school, we find ourselves out of our area of comfort. We're in a different place, culturally different, geographically different, disciplinarily different, and those mentors like you help us make sure that we know we belong and that we learn how to belong and be productive in this new environment. And mentors like you make that transition a lot faster and a lot easier. Thank you so much for engaging with us on Zoom. I've just quickly looked at where all you're joining us from, as far west as Yokosuka, Japan, and then next one, if my geography is right, Quinault Reservation. And then probably Vancouver, BC, if I'm going from the west, sitting in Seattle, going from the west. Vancouver, BC, a lot of us from Seattle, people from Whidbey Island, from Vashon Island, going then back, going towards east, Charleston, West Virginia, and then I think the further, well, then there's Maine. I'm going to reveal my ignorance of geography here. Maine and Halifax. So I don't know exactly in what order they appear, but thank you for joining us from the East Coast. We do have a lot of alumni on the East Coast, either because that's where they grew up and they're returning to that area, or just because their career took them there. So thank you. It's wonderful to see where all you're coming from. I actually have another ask for the audience. Would you please, in a few words, type into the chat what fulfills you and why do you dedicate your time to marine and environmental affairs? I'd really appreciate if you could take a moment and type into the chat what fulfills you and why do you dedicate your time to marine and environmental affairs? And I know that I'll be reading the recorded chat after the meeting, just because being on Zoom is not always most conducive to reading comments in chat. But I know I'll be reading afterwards. So thank you for doing this. It really makes it worth it for all of us, and it empowers us and it motivates us to keep doing the work when we see how many people volunteer their time to help us use our resources sustainably, protect our resources. So thank you for doing this. I really look forward to reading what you've shared. My next question is for Barbara, our second panelist. Barbara, you volunteered with SMEA, lending your brain power to capstone projects, and you've been very generous with your time by hosting site visits. Could you please tell us about hosting site visits and about your volunteer service to marine and environmental affairs more broadly?
I am delighted. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. And what I would like to share is that my goal in coming to the School of Marine Affairs, when it was that name, in 2010, I graduated, and my goal was to focus on local marine stewardship and policy. That work has continued well. And I am very grateful for having been appointed to the Island County Marine Resources Committee, which has provided a platform and a volunteer community for my niche, which is marine policy. The site visits are a wonderful opportunity to not only talk about issues, but how they're related to each other. And it is my pleasure to co-host these visits with other members of the School of Marine, other members of the MRC. But I would say to you that the sites themselves will inform the opportunities to interpret. I will be meeting with Ben and a van load of students next month, and we will be gathering at Cornet Bay in the Deception Pass State Park, which is a lovely opportunity to talk about 13 years of restoration activity in that location. The geological and hydrological behavior within that place. And for those of you that don't know Deception Pass, what I can tell you is that it is a gorge in which the tide comes through and can reach 9, let's see, the right term. It is very powerful. And as a matter of fact, it's a tidal bore that is recognized in the literature about those phenomenon. In addition to that, it's where the Skagit River feeds the area with fresh water. And the animals that gather there are there because it's the right setting for them. For forage fish, which are the fish that are kind of a key to our food web in this region, forage fish seek out sandy beaches. And in this dynamic place, there are some nooks and crannies that have sandy beaches, but they're not the norm. And these little fish will identify areas that will suit them, where their eggs will be exposed to enough water, but not too much, and enough shade, but not too much. And they will actually select sand grain sizes in their search for the right place to lay their eggs. So that's one example of how this place provides the opportunity to talk about the issue itself and also how it plays into other things. The other story that I love to tell on these site visits has to do with newly hatched salmon, which need a nursery location in order to mature and to have their gills and their kidneys adapt to salt water. And the mix of salt and fresh water provides a perfect water column for each of these individual fish to identify the right spot in the water column that suits the maturity level of their bodies. This is the kind of thing that we don't have an opportunity to put together very often. We go deeply into various subjects. This is an opportunity to bring the whole together. The other thing that we will talk about in our site visit is that we need to be sensitive to the social context of all of the work that we do. And in this location, we have some alders that were planted because they are native trees, but they're thriving and they have grown so tall and so dense that they are blocking the view of the water for the people that live close by in their own homes. So we've had to make some adjustments, and those alders are no longer blocking their views. So I appreciate these site visits as an opportunity to meet each student, talk with them about their studies and their aspirations, and also to share with them this remarkable place that we live.
Thank you, Barbara, so much. It's wonderful to hear that, and I'm looking forward to the site visit. Thank you for pouring in so much energy. I don't know if Jill, I know Jill is on the call as well. I don't know if Jill has been helping. If so, Jill, thank you for helping make this happen. Thank you all who've responded to my question on Zoom, and I ask you to type in chat why you do this. And some of the answers very much resonate with what Barbara just shared, and that is the love and the sense of place, the love for the environment that we enjoy so much, the need that we feel to protect that environment for future generations. And then in many of your answers, I also see that you volunteer because you love the people. So it's not just the beautiful environment that sustains us, that provides us, helps us with health and maintain healthy. It's also the people. Some of you write that you love working with people, with staff, with employees in particular industries. So clearly there's this dual motivation. And then I know that there is a third motivation, or I assume that there's a third motivation. I see Phil Levin is on the call, and he did not write in the chat, but I know of his work, and I know that Phil, when his work that was federally funded, when the situation changed and that funding was no longer available, I know that Phil did a Herculean task of assembling many volunteers to continue working, to continue the work and finish the work that was started, that is absolutely essential, and that because of changes in funding could no longer be supported as it was envisioned originally. So I know that some of you do this work because it's an important work and you know it wouldn't get done otherwise. So thank you all for engaging with us. Thank you for the really wonderful work and the time that you're dedicating to marine environmental, to marine environments and coastal communities. And this brings me to the third panelist. Alan, you've been a guest speaker at SMEA. You inspired students and alumni to broaden awareness of career paths. I loved our conversations, how some careers start in one place and then take us into a place we never would have thought. So thank you for those conversations. Alan, what is important to you about volunteering? What advice do you give people seeking to discover new career opportunities in marine and environmental affairs?
Well, that's hopefully, well, let me just say, to help organize my thoughts, I came up with 2 questions and 7 bullets, and each of the bullets have very much influenced my thinking and my activities in the volunteer world. And then finally, I have my own one big ask or a call to action from all of you, and I can promise you that it is that action or that call is very much related to what SMEA is all about. It extends to the college or the school of fisheries, or SAS, I guess is what it is now. So first of all, it's like why volunteer, really? And to my way of thinking, it gets you out in the wider world. Either it allows you to show and take personal initiative. Sometimes you're responding to stimulus from, your parents or teachers, whoever. But clearly, getting out in the world and putting yourself out there in both your personal and professional life really leads you to, outcomes that you probably can't even, foresee or imagine. My next bullet says that, it fosters new relationships, both as, starting out in life, you as a mentee, maybe later on in your life, you become a mentor. So it's kind of obviously goes both ways. It's not really anything that's new or things that we haven't personally, experienced ourselves. Clearly, in the context of this afternoon, we're focused on the education and career progression. How do you get started? How do you give back? And over the course of time, looking forward and looking backward, hopefully we will all, have some amount of satisfaction in how we've expended our time. So again, it does position, it puts you in a place for unexpected and really unforeseen possibilities. And I do have a couple anecdotes that I could share along that line, but I'll leave that for maybe later. And then considering the times that we're in now, it's a call to, I mean, it allows you to really take action. It's an investment in the present and more importantly in the future. And if you think about it, what is the alternative? Here we are, and we can only go forward and hopefully with a spirit of optimism, focus, energy. So that to me has sort of been some of my motivation. My second sort of question was why spend, what's very limited personal time and treasure? And that can be obviously is impacted by where you are in your stage in life, again, in your personal and professional, life. It's uniquely one's own decision. It's your personal reasons for one having the interest or having, the thought of what you might do to contribute. It provides your motivation and hopefully inspiration, not only to yourself to take action, but by your actions, inspire and impact others. Clearly, altruism is at the foundation of that. You know, most people like to pay things forward. When you're further along in life, you certainly have anecdotes or stories. You're certainly willing to share hard-earned life lessons, whether through experiences, new insights, and knowledge. And clearly, we're trying to do that this afternoon. And then finally, at least for me personally, it's gratitude. It's to give back and in many ways to celebrate, remember, and honor individuals, communities, institutions, really, entities that have contributed to my success in life, such as it is my career as it has been. And it really is that sense of gratitude to those of you who came before you, those who have helped you along the way, and then what you hope to convey to, the future generations. And so my one big ask and a call to action is I have been involved with the American Institute of Fishery Research Biologists for many years. It was established in 1956 by W.F. Thompson and 26 founding fellows, all prominent marine scientists in North America, mainly in Canada and across the United States, agency scientists and academics. So that is our basic DNA. What sets us apart from like the American Fisheries Society is that Thompson felt very strongly about promoting a professional code of ethics, scientific integrity, and clearly in the headlines we see, in the last few months and weeks, scientific integrity is, is being challenged and clearly, it's sort of top of mind. Secondly, the AFRB exists to promote and recognize individual and group achievement, mainly through awards, certificates, professional recognition. And more to the point for SMEA and SAFs is that the Institute supports graduate students and early career professionals with monetary awards. We have a W.F. Thompson Best Paper Award. We have research and travel grants. And through the Kiyoshi and Toshiko Kasahara donations to the Institute over the years, we have created the Kasahara Early Career Award. That is our premier award with the largest sort of cash honorarium that the Institute grants. I invite you to look at our website, afrb.org, to sort of explore the details of everything I've sort of laid out in this short moment. And the big ask is that I'm really trying to resurrect the University of Washington district, which I consider to be the mothership to the Institute, and I'm looking for like-minded faculty, alumni, and students to join me over the course of this coming year to re-energize the chapter here. The board is coming out, we're coming out of COVID, and in an attempt to generate real, I guess, interest, we have been given a four-figure funding pool to sort of help get things moving or attract attention. So I'll put that out there and leave it at that. So that's kind of my 2 cents for my opening. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Al. Ben, could you please help me with the questions or the reactions that you're seeing in the Zoom chat? Would you please bring some of those forward?
Yes, so you are all welcome to direct comments or questions in the Zoom chat. If you want to ask a particular panelist a question or just make an observation, I'll be happy to to keep an eye on the Zoom chat. One of the reasons we decided to do the Zoom chat Q&A format is simply because of time, and I would be just over the moon to talk with any and every one of you. And I hope that this is just the beginning of newly connecting with SMEA. I'll tell you, one of my whys for School of Marine and Environmental Affairs is simply I never really realized the importance of coastal communities and how interconnected we are to the ocean and our waters. And I love being around people who are smarter than me as well. And I wonder, since I don't see a question here in the chat, Usha, one of the things that I've heard from Professor Khan at School of Environmental and Forestry Sciences is just how impactful your message is to students when you've spoken year to year. And I feel like your message of perseverance really stands out, not just being the first female woman of color to lead NOAA here in the Pacific Northwest, but also just a woman in science and what it takes to step so boldly into that space. Can you talk a little bit more about perseverance?
Yes, I think I think that's almost like a watchword for being able to survive when most people are different or there is a challenge, and we have everything going on. The diversity is questioned instead of celebration, and we have gone through those periods, perhaps not as vocal, but we have gone through periods where has been challenging for somebody who is not following the crowd, so to speak, or belonging. And so one has to, especially for students who already have so much pressure on them about making decision, whether they're making the right decision, whether they're going into the field that would provide them livelihood and joy. There is a feeling of, am I making the right decision? Am I, any failure starts to really work against you. And so my message has always been that you have to believe in yourself. You have to find some people there that you know would guide or advise you, but you cannot give up. Giving up is not an option because you will then regret it later. So there are sometimes I have had students who would come and talk to me because in NOAA we had a program where we had a lot of undergraduate and graduate students from University of Washington working in our laboratories, going on our ships, and many of them from SAFs and SMEA. And especially I really enjoyed SMEA because it's small, but it's very feisty. And it has both science and policy together. And it makes the leadership quality much more bent on being a leader in the federal agencies or state agencies, and so there is a different kind of atmosphere, and in that funding quite sometimes is not as large as one would like to have, and the students are really scrambling for scholarships and uh, and finding it very difficult whether they are in the right place. And my advice to them in all the classes that I do with the environmental sustainability classes that I talk to students, and I do some clinics and meet students, like about 10 or 15 of them, then so they can ask question without worrying about how it sounds. And in all of that, my advice to them is, do remember you have a voice that is there. You have some negative voices from somebody else. You must ignore them. You must remember that you are special and you can do it. And should I stop and ask Barbara what she wanted to say, or shall I finish?
Oh, please finish. Please finish. I was trying to get Ben's eye.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So the reason why I know I spend about an hour speaking with them. That's takes a lot of energy, but I'm kind of a storyteller, so it actually makes me excited when the students are listening.
Yeah.
50 to 70% of students, when they are listening to you, there is nothing like it. The high you get when if they don't look bored, and then they ask questions. And another hour of my talk is always question and answers. And each one of them listens to different things. And so every time I give a talk, I come back so much more educated about how I speak, what they are hearing, what they are not picking up, what they pick up. So again, being an individual, to celebrate yourself as you are, giving permission to make mistakes, and hanging in there, especially when the going gets rough, because it can't get, well, it can, but we hope that it can't get much worse than that. When we are in it, and I have gone through like 40 plus years of being in NOAA, so many presidents, many administrative changes, many times so suddenly the research is more important and funded, suddenly the actions are more important and funded, suddenly nothing is given to you. How do you do it? You can't continuously worry about what happens at a level you cannot control, but you can really control how you are and what you can do. That's what I tell them. It's giving the power back to students.
Thank you, Usha, so much. This is actually a perfect segue into a question, and I apologize to Trina and Jill. I'm trying to bring two questions together that make sense, like a combined question to me. Apologies if that's not, it doesn't turn out right. But I'm looking at Jill's and Trina's questions, and essentially they're kind of in the current situation with the current federal administration. The work on climate change is not being supported. A lot of other work is not being supported. How do we make sure that we don't go backward in our work towards encouraging students to focus on marine and environmental affairs?
So do you want me to answer that?
Yes, please. Anybody
Yes.
else who
Yeah.
and anybody else who feels like sharing? This is
Okay.
going to be a
So,
difficult question for the next 2 years.
So
Please.
I will quickly answer so Barbara can then speak. I think this is where you look for non-profits. This is where you look for somebody like Phil Levine. So you look for people who are still in the game regardless, and you work with them to get some experience. Um, and I wanted to specially mention that last week Warren Buffett retired at 94, and his advice has been, and I hope people do read about him, but what he said, which has resonated, especially at this time, is you cannot give up. You you just find to volunteer. He said, you for a while, do with less money and more keeping it going, because if you just sell out for the money, because everybody has to have some money to survive, so I understood, but if you don't get your salary the way you should continue to work with, find people that are doing it, and just see if you can get a little bit of experience moving the field forward. Right now we can't climb the mountains, but we can just go for a little hill. That's what I would suggest.
Thank you, Usha. Barbara, Alan,
Yeah.
anything to add here?
I would like to simply add that volunteers present another source of that energy and creativity. And I would really encourage our community as a whole to take Phil Levin's message to heart that the news is very challenging. There's no question about it. But there are creative solutions that are possible. And our volunteers are eager to be a part of helping to carry forward the work that's being done despite the lack of funding. So I would really encourage the professional scientific community to be sure to consider volunteers as a resource.
Thank you so much for that, Barbara. And Alan, I know that you dedicated much of your service to NOAA with regards to understanding budget and finance. And when you and I spoke recently, you had something really important to say, I think, about essentially that there would be opportunities on the other side, not to understate the severity of some of the current situation. But what's your perspective on that?
Right. I guess what I can offer is that, we will get to the other side of what we're experiencing right here and now. Generations have done the same in the past, will continue in the future. I guess in a way I'm speaking to the students or the younger folks. Stay in the game, keep the faith. Again, volunteering get you out there and does lead to unexpected outcomes. And one of my anecdotes is that I can share very quickly is my wife is an inveterate volunteer. She kind of was in the market research department of Seattle Times and was their in-house economist. And this back in the 90s, early 90s. And so when I went back to NOAA Fisheries headquarters in Silver Spring, she, of course, didn't really have much of a choice, and she followed me. And so she started volunteering locally. I mean, things as different as being a CASA volunteer, which is what a court-appointed ad litem. You're an advocate for a minor, of all things. So she did that. She did that also here in Seattle. But that's just an example of how far and wide a field she would volunteer. And in one particular case, she volunteered to be Friends of the local library. Well, the Friends of the local library chair was the National Public Radio Director of Research, Jackie Nixon. And through that relationship, Suzanne eventually found her way into NPR, working for Jackie in the research department. Y2K was coming down on everybody in the late spring and summer of 99. Y2K was sort of an orphan without anyone really minding the store. Suzanne volunteered to step into that. The world didn't end, and that got her into the CEO or the C-suite of NPR, and then she became the essentially worked her way up to be functionally the executive secretary of the NPR board, and then was able to justify creating a chief of staff position at NPR. You know, chief of staffs back then were kind of all-purpose. The title was, you know, not as expansive as it is nowadays. But shortly after getting that slot, she was let go. NPR was going through their second down cycle in terms of their financing, and so she was let go. And so, in a way, that was her moment of crisis. And, you know, 15 years later, she's back here on Whidbey Island, and she's in fact joined the board of Sound Water Stewards. And so she sort of completed the circle and starting to dabble in our part of what we all care about here in the Northwest. So again, volunteering leads to unexpected outcomes or paths.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Alan, for sharing that. It's really inspiring. I'm tasked with the job of wrapping up our hour together. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining today's Zoom gathering. I hope you're newly inspired to dive into action and volunteer with our school and on behalf of Marine and Environmental Affairs. Please direct all of your follow-up inquiries and points of interest to the email uwsmea@uw.edu. Ben or Monica, if you could please write that in the Zoom chat. So again, that's uwsmea@uw.edu. I would like to take a moment and especially thank our panelists, Usha Varanasi, Barbara Bennett, and Alan Shimada. We're honored you joined us today and you shared your thoughts, what motivates you, what gives you the energy, what keeps you staying engaged and active. I also would like to point out that today we're asking you to help us, volunteer with us. We're asking you to maybe host a site visit, maybe help us develop a capstone project. I am really, really happy to hear that. We have one of our largest cohorts coming in and joining us in September, which means that we need to have capstone projects, exciting capstone projects. I'm asking you, please help us develop these capstone projects. And I'm asking you to help us mentor these young, dedicated, committed people who will need mentors. These are not easy days to be entering a graduate school working on marine and environmental affairs. They will need mentors who have weathered these storms, as all of you have pointed out. So please help us, join us in mentoring and providing exciting capstone opportunities. And there's one person in SMEA who's been the crucial person setting up the infrastructure for all this to happen. Dave Fluharty. When I started my first term as the director in the School of Marine and Environmental Affairs, I asked Dave, please help. There is so much of institution building that has to happen. Even though we've been such an old and established school, we had to build the capstone program, we had to build the mentorship program, and Dave has always said yes, yes, yes. So Dave, thank you for doing this. Thank you for helping us create these opportunities and develop us the infrastructure so that we're transparent and we can clearly communicate what we need. Thank you, Dave, for doing this. Thank you, all of us, other emeritus professors, Vlad Kaczynski, Mark Miller, Tom Machine, Dan Huppert. All of you have been instrumental in our growth. I trust you're all doing well, and I know that you love hearing from alumni. That is what sustains us and reminds us of the days when we were making big impact in the lives and hearts and careers of young people. Today, our invitation to you is to volunteer with SMEA, and if you can't volunteer, make a gift or do both. I'm asking Monica to share one more link, and that is the link in the Zoom chat. If you are in a position to make a gift today, you'll have a link where you can do that today. If you click on the link, please make a donation to the featured fund at the top, named the School of Marine and Environmental Affairs Graduate Student Fellowship Fund. And you're welcome to look at and explore other funds as well. The reason we're featuring this one is because we are going to have a large incoming cohort, and the funding is restricted, to say the least, for the next few years. So we would really be grateful. It would help a lot of young and dedicated people who are starting and entering graduate studies at a difficult point in time when it comes to funding. We'll now share our screen so you can write down our contact info, as well as a link to make a gift. Of course, you can always find us on our website, and we're just an email or a phone call away. Here is why we ask you to support SMEA students. Right now, SMEA's most urgent need is to strengthen student support. We're getting nearly 40 new students joining us in the fall. Your gifts make a real difference. Given the uncertainties about funding available to graduate students, we're concerned and deeply committed to supporting our current and incoming students to complete their studies, obtain their degrees, and go out and make the change that they want to make. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for considering making a gift today. Thank you for considering how you join us and volunteer with SMEA, create these new opportunities for students to learn from you and about the work that you've been doing, helping us create capstone projects. Thank you for including us among your philanthropic priorities in the future. We're truly grateful. And all of you who already invest in this important work, thank you, including each of our panelists. We've reached the end of our program today. We'll stay on the Zoom for a few more minutes for informal chat. We'll follow up with emails, Ben or I will. I hope you don't mind. We would love to continue these conversations. And on behalf of SMEA, a big thank you to all of you. Thanks for joining us today.